Apple in the Enterprise with David Ginsburg, Part 2. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Insta360 and their new Insta360 X5 flagship camera. Visit store.insta360.com and use the promo code MacVoices to get a free and visible 114cm selfie stick worth $24.99 with a standard package purchase. Limit first 30 standard package purchases only. Dave, I know in our personal lives, our personal tech lives, we recommend to a lot of people an iPad as a completely viable machine, depending on what you're doing. But if you're doing the basic web surfing, video watching, email, occasional banking, an iPad is a completely viable device.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like that's the case if we start talking about enterprise situations where, yes, you're having to do Teams and you're having to do Zooms and you are using Office 365, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel? Do you feel like they pretty much hold up right now? Because it feels like from the outside, and you tell me because you're the expert, it feels like they're a lot easier to maintain than a laptop, regardless of which laptop it is.
100%. Now, I guess it really depends what if you're doing. If you even with an 11-inch iPad, that's usually the one that a lot of enterprise goes with because of cost. Of course, you got to think about that. If you're going with an iPad Pro M4 and even put 512 gigabytes of drive space in there, the price is up there. I mean, and you have to look at the return on the ownership with that. But yeah, I think back about 10 years ago when I did my first presentation at MacStock, and I talked about that exact thing. Can your iPad be your primary device instead of a computer? And think about it 10 years ago with an iPad. That was 2015. That was only 5 years in, and we were already starting to think about it back then. I think now, more than ever, it's become even more of a realistic thing that could possibly be. Even if you were to increase it and go to the 13-inch, and I own a 13-inch iPad Pro M4, and I love it, and I think it's got an absolutely beautiful screen. PowerPoints were super easy to working on Word documents and Excel spreadsheets, much easier than the smaller size screens. So it is a doable thing. It really depends on what applications that corporate wants to do. Now you go back to Zoom and Teams. Yeah, Teams is a great experience on the iPad, even 11-inch or 13-inch. 13-inch. I know you probably disagree with me on that because of Teams, but I think for the most part it does work pretty well. It works with the camera that's on the iPad, so you'll get a good experience that way. Zoom's the same thing. I've had many Zoom calls using an iPad, and it works pretty well. I mean, there's limitations. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of people who would prefer to be on a laptop, honestly, because they're used to it and that's what they want to do. But I think it's definitely becoming more and more of a viable solution here. I've had experiences with with Microsoft tablets, going like the Surface Pro. I think is an awful product, honestly. I think it's improved itself better these days than it has in the past. Now with Copilot and AI. It's got some more improvements, but you're still at the mercy of an Intel processor and Microsoft Windows 11 and battery life. How much life are you going to get? They say they've improved to 6 to 7, 8 hours maybe. I mean, in time, I know any battery is going to start deteriorating. It does on an iPad. There's no question about it. But I think the experience on an iPad when it comes to a tablet type of situation, I think it's a much better experience.
We haven't, and this is sort of outside the scope of what we were going to talk about, but I feel like I need to anyway.
Okay.
Google devices.
Okay.
How do they stack up in the corporate world right now? As far as are they welcome? The Android phones and maybe the I can't say it, the Chromebooks.
Chromebooks and Android tablets. I mean, they're all out there.
Yeah.
My experiences, I don't think it's a very good experience. I've got an Android Google Pixel 8 that I've been playing with for a while, and obviously, I guess I'm the Apple fanboy, like you said. We're both Apple fanboys here, and having that experience working in the Android world is challenging. There's no question about it. But but you would talk to somebody who's an Android expert and probably would beg to differ. But I don't hear of many places that welcome it as far as in a corporate environment where it would be a device that you would use as a full-time device, unless it's your, in most cases, most companies are doing a BYOD, bring your own device. You could use it, and it does have its pluses and its minuses. And if you wanted to do a tablet and be able to do the same things we just talked about with Microsoft 365, and I haven't seen, and there are companies out there are using Google Workspace and living in the Google environment using Google Docs and Google Sheets and all that. It's more on the education side than it is on the corporate side, but there's companies out there that are probably doing it. The Chromebook, I have a Chromebook here. That's me. I have everything. The Chromebook to me is just it's not a very good experience in my opinion. I mean, a lot of these devices are pretty slow. They don't do a lot. Everything's on the web, so you can be locked down in corporate and education for that matter can lock things down on how things are accessed through the Google Workspace. But overall, I don't see a lot of enterprise looking at those devices, in my opinion, when it comes to that, just because of its usability. But that's the thing. The parents of that work at these companies of these kids kind of have to know about it too, because that's a lot of schools they're giving out these Chromebooks, and but I think we're kind of getting near a spot where Apple's starting to make a dent in a lot of that, especially when they make a little more affordable iPads. When they got the 10th gen iPad that's out there now, it allows you to be able to have a school be able to afford to purchase those types of devices versus Chromebooks. But Chromebooks are still pretty cheap. When they buy them, they can get $300 and $400 Chromebooks that are more than sufficient for lower education, K through 8 or K through 5. And then, when you go to junior high and high school, then they would go to the bigger devices like Macs and iPads. So, but yeah, overall, I'm on the fence when it comes to in the corporate world. If there is too many of them out there, I'd be curious actually.
I ask because it seems like it always is a tussle between Apple and Microsoft. And occasionally you might hear the Pixel word come up, but you just don't hear that much about some of the others. Nope. And I don't know if that's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because of where our interest lies or our interests lie, or whether it really is that way. But because for a long time, it seemed like Chromebooks were making this big, huge push into education, and there was a faction out there that said this is how they're going to, dominate the mainstream devices later because kids grew up on Chromebooks, so therefore they're going to want to use Chromebooks when they become adults. I think that's a fallacy. It was true at the time, but I think it's a fallacy because now things are changing so fast that now the kids almost don't have the opportunity to work with in the real world what they were working with as kids in school.
You hit it right on the head there. I mean, when they get into the real world, into the business world, they were using Chromebooks all their childhood and up through junior high. I would hope the junior high schools and the high schools have moved on to either iPads or Macs, or even PCs for that matter, if that's the case. Because that's the way it is. But it's all changing. Microsoft, I know, has been thinking about for a while making Windows a cloud-based type of operating system. That could happen. You don't know. Something could change in the next few years with Mac OS. Will it change to become a cloud-based type of OS? Who knows? I mean, because that's what Chromebook is now. But how would they do it and have it still be a good experience like it is now with either environment? So you're right. It's really hard to say where that is too, as far as that goes. So, I mean, but we're in such a great world right now with having these choices. You didn't have these choices going back 15, 20 years ago. You really didn't. You were just pretty much on a laptop. You had some tablets. Phones were in a place where, when the iPhone came out in 2007, that was the game changer right there. When we had that, enterprises supporting the iPhone like crazy, and it's either company owned or it's bring your own device, and it really depends on the company and how they do it. So when you go to that world too. So
the new Insta360 Go Ultra is the tiny 4K camera that goes everywhere with you. Are you ready to capture every adventure without missing a beat? Meet the Insta360 Go Ultra, the tiny camera that's built to keep up with your wildest moments. Whether you're hiking a rugged trail, biking down steep switchbacks, or just exploring a new city, the Go Ultra goes everywhere you go. This featherweight powerhouse slips into your pocket, clips to your gear, or mounts almost anywhere. No bulky setup, no heavy equipment. Just stunningly smooth, stabilized footage every time. And with the upgraded video quality and longer battery life, you'll never have to choose between traveling light and capturing it all. The best part? You're in control with creative shooting modes that let you turn quick clips into cinematic highlights in seconds. Slow motion, time-lapse, hyperlapse, whatever fits the mood of your adventure. Then, with the Insta360's easy editing tools, you can share your journey instantly. So don't let those once-in-a-lifetime moments slip by. Bring the Insta360 Go Ultra along for the ride, and make sure every adventure is more than just a memory. It's a story you can relive and share. Visit store.insta360.com and don't forget to use the promo code MacVoices at checkout for your exclusive deal, free sticky pads. That's store.insta360.com and the promo code MacVoices for free sticky tabs. Thanks to Insta360 for their support of MacVoices. It was interesting to watch that as the pandemic developed, that there were people that wanted a company device. There were other people that said, absolutely not, I will not carry a company device. Yep. There were other people that said, okay, you're asking me to take calls and basically wear my personal phone for your business benefit. And so, it really, as opposed to those of us who said, I'm happy to use my iPhone because it's a better experience than what you're giving me. So yes, I'll take the calls on my phone, and do things get jumbled up? Yes. Is the record keeping not as good, especially from a legal perspective? Probably not. But the usability and the productivity, I'm not ready to say they outweigh some of that, because there are a lot of concerns over the legality and the tracking of things. Yeah. But it is the way it is. Well,
funny you say that, because someone asked me that question the other day because they were ready to upgrade their iPhone, and he said he was considering getting a second phone. He would like maybe get a 16E because he just wanted a simple phone, and maybe he would get two 16Es. One of them would be his personal and his own personal phone number, and then he would separate it and make the second phone. He'd pay for it, of course, because it's bring your own device, and then keep them separate. Because some people are like that. They don't like to meld their personal and their business on one device. And I understand that. I'm used to it. I've been doing it for so long, and plus, because I support it, why wouldn't I want to have it on one device? Really, if someone was tech savvy enough, I know the fact is that you can add a second phone number to one iPhone and then combine them into one. So if you wanted to do that, just add another number and make it that second line just for business. That's the number you give out. You don't want to be giving out your personal mobile number, because that's all I want to do is keep it personal. But then spin that back to Teams. You look at Teams. Teams has now Teams Phone available. So you get a phone extension assigned to you by the company, and Teams can be your phone for work. So why do you need to have a second device other than live in Teams? Being able to do that. I shouldn't be saying that, I know, but that's another option too. Answering phone calls and using that number as your de facto number when dealing with business calls, because you can easily receive those calls very easily on your mobile device.
Before we finish this up, there's one other thing I want to ask from an Apple user perspective. We've talked about it before, offline and during the shows, and that is iCloud. Okay. And where it fits in, or can fit in, or just can't fit in to an enterprise environment from an Apple user standpoint.
It can't. There's no way. It's just too personal. The enterprise doesn't have control of what iCloud does. Apple controls it. it controls it to a point. It doesn't have access to it. It doesn't have, everything's encrypted. But I think the environment itself is more tuned to a consumer than it is to a business. I just don't see iCloud could ever be a part of a business. Maybe a small business might do it. It's possible they might want to do that. but it all depends on their budget. From working for a larger company like I do, obviously the larger companies tend to have a much bigger budget that they can afford what they're doing now with doing Microsoft 365. And you think about it, however many employees there are, that's a lot of money that they budget every year to support that. I think iCloud is just it's not ready for being an enterprise type device, a cloud service. It really isn't. I think it's consumers.
But at the risk of sounding like I'm pushing,
No.
do you see a problem with using it on a company device or a device that you use for your company, but you can still have your iCloud account there from an email standpoint, from a syncing standpoint for notes and for pages and for numbers and all the things that sync through iCloud so seamlessly? Does that present? Do you think that presents a problem, or is that something that is Jamf and the device management software going to say no?
Well, that's at the choice of the company how they decide to place those rules in place, and I still don't think it's ideal for the enterprise. I think it's something that is strictly consumer based. If you own your own device and you bring your company's access to your device, it stays separate in those separate four walls, like I said earlier about Microsoft 365. So that stays in that place. You could still be signed into your iCloud account. It still is your device. You just have a little side area where that's just where you access your work. Now you can start playing things that do not disturb and all that stuff if you don't want to get any more calls and any information from your work. There are ways of segregating that out, but I find it to be crazy to be carrying two phones, one for work and one for personal, just because of the pure reason of why do I want to carry two devices with me? I don't think it's something that enterprise will ever visit unless Apple decides to make a enterprise level service like that iCloud does, that iCloud would be part of.
And I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing.
I don't.
It just is. It's like, okay, this was not built for all the enterprise considerations and all the issues surrounding the fact that in the enterprise I'm sorry, you're going to have to interface with Windows and Azure and those kind of apps and those kind of platforms, as opposed to in a purely Apple platform, you really don't have to go there if you don't want to. So iCloud is a perfectly reasonable solution, and we could argue all night whether it's more secure or not, but it's going to be, from a personal standpoint, more than adequate for most of the things you're going to do. It's just from the corporate standpoint with all the different interactions, it's just not built for it.
Yeah. No, I don't think it is. Yeah.
Okay. What have we missed, Dave? Anything?
Yeah, one thing I just want to hit real quick is the future. What is Apple's future in enterprise? And I think it's a good way to wrap it up because that's the future. We're at the present now. So the impact of what the M series processors is huge. I think it's going to be something that it's going to continue to evolve, and I think more and more companies are going to realize how amazing those processors are for that. And then of course AI and everything with that. And let's hope Apple gets their act together with Apple Intelligence. That's a whole nother topic by itself. And I'd like to see that evolve as well. But we've got plenty of others with ChatGPT and the others I've mentioned. But the one thing I wanted to close out with is Vision Pro. Where's the future of work with the Vision Pro? Right now, me being a Vision Pro owner, I could see its future. We still can't get Teams on it. You can't do Zoom calls, but of course, you've got those persona pictures that you have of yourself on the Vision Pro. I would hope that they can come up with a way that you look like a real person and not like a persona like that. But I think there's a big future for it. I think a lot of companies are already using Vision Pro, and especially in the healthcare industry, they're looking at it in surgeries and a lot of other applications for it. I think in the corporate world, you could see some things that would come, even with crashing numbers and working in all kinds of other things. I would love to see where this goes. Everybody continue to hear, oh yeah, Vision Pro is a flop. I think it's just a door to the future. I think as it matures, I think Vision Pro could be a really good place in the industry that could be a place where it can be a device that who knows, 10 years down the road maybe. That's probably a good estimate. we might be seeing everybody with their Vision Pros on their faces and doing that and using it as a screen instead of a screen like we've been talking about all the time what it does. And I see a future there. I mean, it's just, I think it's going to be a bit of a ways to go before we get there.
I'm really glad you brought that up because it's not something that I think we're seeing in the enterprise right now, with a couple exceptions. And you kind of hit on them. Surgery, engineering, there are places that this is making massive inroads very quickly. And okay, so Teams isn't on the Vision Pro. Well,
it is. It's just it's limited. I mean, getting access to that.
Yeah, and so but I'm not sure that right now we're ready for that. But when I see doctors doing surgery with the Vision Pro, I mean, okay, somebody's med mal insurance probably had a stroke when they heard about it. But on the other hand, it is a better experience for the doctor, and it seems to be doing better outcomes for the patients. So I think it's like everything else. I want it for my use right now. And so, if I don't have it right now for my use, then it obviously is behind. And I don't think that's the case. I think there's so many potential uses for the Vision Pro that Apple and the developers just have to catch up. They
do. I mean, productivity, collaboration, training, simulation, design, prototyping. I'm just reading off some of the things that are out there that they're doing now. Data visualization, analysis. There's so many things that we can do visually with a Vision Pro that would make you more efficient as well as enjoy being able to work with it. But like I said, that's the future. But I think it's something that Apple is probably looking at. We just don't hear too much about it.
Dave, this has been fun. I'm glad we got a chance to do this. Hopefully, folks, it's giving you a little bit of a look into part of the universe that we talk about a fair amount, but we don't focus on from a deep dive perspective, because it doesn't apply to a lot of folks. But if you are someone who's out there as an Apple person trying to get your IT department to pay attention, this interview might be something good that you can show them and maybe help them understand that there are tools out there, that there are a lot of companies, a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are welcoming Apple tech into the mix, and to not do so is at your own peril. Dave, before we go, where can folks find you when you're not here talking enterprise, enterprise and Apple?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm happy to tell everybody where they can find me. You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. That's been my podcast for the last 9 years. Love doing it. Come check it out. You can also see us on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I appear on MacVoices Live all the time, as everybody knows. So I love doing that every week on the Tuesday nights that we record that live. Social media, you can find me at DaveG65 in most places, mostly on Blue Sky, Mastodon. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dave. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We've got a lot more coming up, but until then, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.